Hi, everyone. This is Neil Douglas, and this is American Truth Finders. We've got a show tonight that I'm hoping we can get through the whole show because I've got a lot of material and I'm going to try my best to get through as much as possible. Tonight's topic is the rise of violence in America. Now, the whole thing is, as we all know, that there's protests going on, and we know that there's rioting. We know there's been killings. There's been so much of everything, and we need to talk about it. We need to talk about what can we do. What can we do to stop this? This is America. We are acting like a country that is out of control, and we are out of control. Cities that want to defund the police. We had, I'm thinking it was like 52 or 57 nights of protest and rioting in Portland, Oregon, since the death of George Floyd. 53 or 57 nights of rioting in Portland, Oregon. I'm going to ask you to think about something. And please comment. I want you to comment for me tonight. And please share that this video or our live broadcast is now. We're on. Share it with your friends. And I'm hoping that maybe we can come up with some answers. I don't know. I'm going to start off the show real quick. Now I want to show you something, and for those that are continuing to join as we go along. I normally tell you that I do my shows like I used to do my radio shows, and that is I use material, and this is just a bunch of material that I use, and I can't memorize it. I just no way I can memorize it. I'm going to start off with the fact of the ACLU is suing the Department of Homeland Security because of the response to Portland protests. Now, I want you to think about that. The group says that the lawsuit was filed on behalf of local journalists and legal subscribers. The ACLU getting involved in suing the federal agents of the Department of Homeland Security because the Homeland Security is protecting federal buildings or monuments or whatever. They're not there to take over the policing of Portland, but the ACLU is suing the Department of Homeland Security. Now, I'm going to tell you something. You may or may not know this. ACLU has been troublemakers for a long time. Some of you may agree, some of you may not agree. You comment, tell me what you think, because I respect your opinions. So people are coming and going, and so I know that it depends on how many people get involved and want to watch the show and want to get their opinion in or their comment in, and I want you to. But there's something about the ACLU that it was started back in 1920, for crying out loud. And I want you to think about this. They actually started as an anti-communist supporting organization. Now they are supporting communists. okay, in the United States I'm referring to. That's just the start of this show. And people are coming and going, and I understand that. Maybe I'm not interesting you to on a topic at this point yet, but we are going to talk about what's going on and the violence and what's happening in America. America right now is in trouble. We're in deep trouble, people. Defunding the police. Do you want not to have any protection for yourself? Defunding the police. Yes, there are bad police officers. I've already discussed this in my previous videos or my other broadcasts, but the percentage is maybe what, 0.5% or 1% of the police are bad. The rest of these police are there to help you, you know. And when you need them, you want them now. You can't wait for somebody else to come along and do their talking for you. I'm going to tell you what. And I mentioned this on the last show, that Omar defends to call the dismantle of the Minneapolis police. And guess what? Guess what? Now I'm going to wait on this until I get a few more people. I am that are watching. Because this is important. I've got papers all over the place, and I know that doesn't look professional, but you know what? I'm not trying to be professional. I'm trying to be honest. I'm trying to tell you what's going on. I'm trying to tell you that there is an important part of this that you need to know, that the people in Minneapolis who have been, there was rioting and they're defunding the police department, but the three people on their council, it's costing $45 a day to protect those people who want to get rid of the police. Minneapolis City Council voted on Saturday to defund the police department, and being the first city in the country to seriously discuss the measure. At the start of the month, Council President Lisa Bender, said that they will dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department entity and instead replace it with a transformative new model of public safety. Damn it, what is that supposed to mean? What is that supposed to mean? Rioting going on every day. Portland, Oregon, they want to dismantle the police. Minneapolis is dismantling police, and not only are they dismantling them, but there are the people that voted on this on the city council. They're getting protective service that's costing the community $4,500 a day to protect them because they got rid of the police. Now, I'm going to name off. I'm just going to I got to list off some names because I'm very concerned about this, and I want you to be concerned. I want you to comment. Tell me what the heck where I'm going wrong if I'm not saying it right. Right now, you got Minneapolis, New York, LA, Miami, Nashville, Salt Lake City, Cleveland, Raleigh, Louisville, Atlanta, Washington, D.C., and Columbus, Ohio that have been rioting and protesting. There are two different things. Protesting is one thing if it's peaceful. Rioting is not. And I'm going to tell you who's involved with the rioting if you'll stick around and if you'll listen. And if you'll pay attention, if you'll please, give me your opinions on this, because I'm going to tell you who's behind so much of this. And I'm going to put up a map to show you the entire country where protests and rioting are going on, but we're not hearing about all these rioting. And I'm telling you, this is so important. The people that are behind this rioting, the protesting, is, as I said, protest is a right. It's like a freedom of speech if it's peaceful. But when you have people that deliberately want to destroy everything, that's not no longer it's not a uh, it's not a protest anymore. It's become a riot. Doris Roberts, thank you. I'm glad you're here. I appreciate it. Uh, I appreciate your support. And if any of you have any comments, please make them. But I'm going to tell you there's actually two. And like I said, I read off a list of cities, right, that are major cities that are having some real major problems with rioting. They're destroying people's business, they're destroying people's lives, they're destroying people's homes. You know, the violence in America has become out of control. And if we defund the police, like so many of the communities want to do, who's going to protect you? What are you going to do? You're going to protect yourself with your handgun against how many people that come to your house and want to take over your house? And that's exactly what they're doing, like in Seattle, when they have these, these zones, the autonomous zones that actually where they just take over. That's what's happening in America. And they are tearing down your house. They're tearing down your city. They're tearing down your right to have and say and do and come and go without fear. Is everybody in the country going to have to wear a gun in order to protect themselves, and then we start killing each other off like they did in the Old West? What is going on? Look, please comment to me and tell me what you think, whether I'm right or whether I'm not, whether I'm wrong. When I told you that Minneapolis, the people that voted against the police so that they could defund the police, which they have. This was done on Saturday. They are getting, it's costing $4,500 a day to protect these people. Who are they protecting them from? The people in Minneapolis that are good citizens? I mean, let's be real. Let's really be real. Now, I know so many people are coming and going because maybe I'm not touching your button. Maybe I'm not hitting your hot button. Maybe I'm not hitting what you want to hear about. Maybe, when I say about the violence in America, let me tell you something. When babies are killed because of people, and I'm going to tell you something. It's really, it's so heartbreaking when a 1-year-old or a 3-month-old or a 5-month-old or a 4-year-old child is murdered and killed because of these rioters and these gangs and these crazy people that are out there, for crying out loud. I told you I'm going to tell who is behind this. Now, I do want to thank Tina Maria for messaging me that she is watching, and I appreciate that. I know that a lot of people don't want to comment because maybe they are concerned about how it might be a backlash to them, and I understand that. But I am going to tell you who's behind so much of this. And I'm going to tell you, we're going to talk about a couple of different organizations that I want you to pay close attention, because this is very important. Number one, Black Lives Matter. And I have to tell you, this is going to maybe really upset you, or maybe it won't upset you. But for those of you that are watching, please wait until I'm done. As I told you, I do my broadcast, my live broadcast, like I do my radio show, which is I use material that I need to read because I can't memorize everything. Tina Marie, you're doing good, Neil, and I appreciate your good heart. Yes, I'm here and I support you. Good effort. Tina, thank you so much. That really makes so much. Trina, I said Tina, I apologize. I think my eyes are going bad. Anyway, this is something that I think that maybe some of you do know, maybe some of you don't know. But the Black Lives Matter is not about protecting Black lives. Do you get that? Do you understand it? And I'm going to explain to you how I know this, and why I know this, and why it has to be brought under control. They have become a group of people, including white, and I'm going to tell you how I know that. The co-founder of Black Lives Matter was a convicted cop killer, number one. And out of her, H-E-R, her heroes, and the Black Lives Matters national organization of fiscally sponsored through a leftist group whose board of directors includes a convicted terrorist. Now that's Black Lives Matters. Now, one of the founders, or the founder, it's actually, she was one of them, Alicia Gaza. Now think about this. She was one of the founders of the Black Lives Matters national organization. All right, she's repeatedly talked about how convicted cop killer, and she wants to dismantle, or she wants to, she wants to have domestic terrorist Joanne Christensen, also known as Asta Shakar. Now, who is Asta Shakar? Does anybody have a clue? Well, I'm going to tell you. She is a member of the board of directors of the left-wing Thousand Current group, which handles the intake of donations made to the Black Lives Matters, and convicted terrorists who are, among other things, suspected of helping her, Shakar, escape from prison. Now, these are Black Lives Matters. That's who these people are. Now, the other person who handles, I'm going to mention, is, and some of you may or may not remember this name. Okay? Actually, the Rosenberg, her last name is Rosenberg. She was one of the Weather Underground group that she was sent to prison for 58 years. And then she's been released after 16 years. Now, she was in prison because she was convicted of weapons and explosives, explosive charges, and sentenced to 58 years in prison for being pardoned. And then she was, before being pardoned by Bill Clinton back in 2001. She handles the money. Rosenberg was a radical in the 90s or 60s and 70s, and who handled the Black Lives Matters. And matter of fact, she was actually on the FBI's most wanted list. Now, these are people that are in the Black Lives Matter. Now, you ask me why I keep talking about Black Lives Matter group. These are the people who are terrifying and terrorizing your riots. They're being invaded. Who's funding them? People keep asking, who's funding them? The government says, who's funding them? Well, I'm going to tell you who I think is funding them. I think you're going to have people like George Soros. I've mentioned that name so many times, it's unreal. I really believe that this is a serious situation when you have somebody like him funding. That's I'm saying he's funding them. I don't have proof of that, but I'm saying he is. I really do truly believe it. Now, Rosenberg, who has just been released from prison, she not just been released, she was released from prison. And I'm going to tell you, Bruno, I want to tell you something. I am going to be touching on Antifa. And there, you mentioned that all organized gangs also are all to keep Trump out of the second term, collapse the economy before the next election. George Soros is funding these terrorists. Well, there we go. We got somebody that agrees with what I just said, and I appreciate that very, very much. And here's the problem. Here's the problem. How do we stop them? Okay, how do we stop people from that are so evil, so corrupt, so absolutely down and out? They want to take America down. They want to take America down and destroy it. They don't want a government. They want to control. They want to control. They want to take your life. They want to take your rights, your liberties. We're losing that fast enough with governments that get involved. When government people get involved, they're taking enough of our rights. We don't need groups like Black Lives Matters or Antifa. And when you and I am going to touch on Antifa, believe me, I am. If I were to get enough people involved tonight, I would extend this show to and do another show tomorrow. But if not, then we'll just continue on where we are. I'm gonna tell you something. The definition of anarchy. I've told people this before. Okay, number one, it's the absence of government. It's a state of lawlessness or political disorder due to the absence of a governmental authority in the cities. Listen to me. The city's descent into anarchy. In other words, what happens is like what's going on in Seattle, in Portland, in New York, in LA, and in Minnesota, Cleveland. These are the places where I mentioned earlier in the show that are wanting to defund police, and they are having riots, not just protests, they're having riots. Come on, people, comment to me about this. We have Trina and Bruno, who has given their thoughts. They're not afraid. They're not afraid to stand up. What happens when you walk out the door and then you got one of these crazed groups that has infiltrated your small town or your small city, and you are afraid to even take your child out? Going on, the definition of anarchy is the absence of denial of any authority or established type of government. And they prevail in the ghetto. Now, what does that tell you? That they are protecting the Black lives? No. The Black people of this country, the average Black person in this country, Black Lives Matter is not protecting you. They're not on your side. They're not helping you. They're not even wanting to help you. They're wanting to destroy you, as well as white people, Chinese people, Hispanic people, any people of color. And if you don't like what I'm telling you, then I'm sorry. You better wake up. I realize that I do upset people because I do get a little bit carried away with my anger. But I'm not playing a game here. This is serious. America is in deep trouble. The violence. This is an election year. We know that, okay? We know that during an election year, things can get pretty hectic. I think it's gotten worse because of Donald Trump being in the race to possibly be president again. I believe that's definitely a part of it, and I agree with Bruno on that issue. Doesn't matter what my politics are. Bottom line is, I believe that because he's not a Washington insider. He's not going to. He's going to defend this country in the best way he knows how, or the best way the Constitution will let him, and the best way the Congress will let him. And Congress right now is what the hell? Are they, excuse my language, I'm sorry for cussing, but I'm telling you right now, half the time Congress is even in session. And when they are in session, they're trying to either impeach him, or they fight with each other because they want their pork put into their bill before they'll do anything about helping the average American, the people that need it, the people that need the help. I rambled. I didn't mean to ramble on that. But the absence of disorder at manufactured lots, but amid the anarchy is what that is all about. And I'm going to tell you, this country's headed for anarchy. If you don't believe me, tell me. You tell me. Comment. Make your comments, please. I'm very, very, very interested in knowing what you have to say. You may not. You're not going to hurt my feelings. We're not going to get into an argument about it. We're not going to do that. But we are going to discuss it because of the fact the violence has got to stop. Because if it doesn't stop, the country's coming down. And and for all my Democratic friends out there, I'm going to break your heart, but I'm going to tell you what. If Joe Biden gets elected, the country is done. Because Joe Biden he might be called the president, but he will not be the president. Because I've mentioned this in a few other videos. You're going to have the squad will be running the country along with Nancy Pelosi. She will be the president, or whoever he picks as vice president. It will not be Joe Biden. He will be the puppet with a name. And what's going to happen to the country? You see what's happening now already with the cities can't even control their own violence that's going on, their own protests that are going on. People cannot continue like this. Let me ask you a question. How many of you that have been watching Facebook or any other social media have seen and comments that people are afraid to even take their children anywhere? You go to Walmart, you go to the grocery store, you go wherever you might go, you don't know what's going to happen. This is not your average citizen that's doing it to you. These are paid individuals that this is what they do for a living. And that's where your Black Lives Matter comes in. That's where Antifa comes in. If you don't believe that, if you don't believe I'm right, do your own research. I am telling you anyway, never believe anything I say. Do your own research. I'm sorry if there's people that keep coming and going because maybe I haven't kept your attention or whatever the case is. But I'm not sorry for what I'm talking about. I'm not sorry for what I'm talking about at all. Let me tell you, you can take this or not. But when you take God out of the country, which is what is happening to America and what has happened to America, you're going to have things like this happen. If you want this to continue, the violence that's going on in each of these cities, if you want to keep watching your whatever TV station that you watch, where the commentary comes on, because it's not really news anymore, it's commentary or opinion. It's become a situation where you have to you have to make your own mind up. I'm going to read a couple things. I'm sorry. I apologize. I got carried away and forgot to read it. Tina Maria, it's terrible that people are destroying things that people have worked for their whole lives. Not to mention the innocent lives taken while in their presence. And Trina, this is so true. This is exactly what I'm talking about. And for the rest of you that are watching, please do me a favor. Tell your friends to tune in, because I'm going to step on some toes. I know that. I don't, but I guess I can't help it. Bruno, our government was previously overrun by a group of treasonous, sick people, and it gets worse. People are going down behind the scenes, and Trump and his administration is taking down the cabal. I guess that's what it says. My glass. I need new glasses. Oh, and it's Francisca. Sorry about that, Francisca. I apologize. I'm glad you joined us. Doris Roberts, I agree with you. Out until the Democrats, they are evil. Out with the Democrats, they are evil. What's happened to the Democrat Party is this: they're falling left, so far left that it's become a situation that we don't know. We don't know what would we become, a socialist country? Would we become a Marxist company or country? Would we become a communist country? I'm going to tell you right now, with some of the people that are that are holding positions in the House of Representatives and in the Senate, that are falling to the left so far, and even Biden is starting to fall to the left, but I don't know that he knows it. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know that he realizes it. And I have to tell you, if he is elected, this country will become a country where you will be controlled for everything you do, every move you make. We're already being controlled in so many ways because we have a Democratic House and a Senate that we don't know which way they're going to fall. We really don't. It's a Republican Senate, but they don't always go. They can't even decide on what they want to vote. It's all about their darn pork. It's all about what they want, not what you want, not what you need, not what your neighbor needs, not what the children need. It's what they want, what they need. They got it. They're set for life, so they really don't give a darn. They don't care. They really don't care. And I have to tell you, it's bothering me because, look, when the police clashed in violent encounters in Chicago because of the Christopher Columbus statue, what is wrong? What's going on, people? What's going on? Trina Maria, the thing I don't like about politics, the left and the right, it only further divides us. The people need to unite and fight against the criminal enterprise we call the elite. Amen. I love you for that one, Trina. That is so true. That is so true. The problem is, and I've said this before, and I don't want to keep repeating it, but if you take the ones that are on the right and one that are on the left that's in our government right now, put them in a hat, shake them all up, start pulling them out, you don't know what you've got, because it's almost like they get into a back room, light up their cigars or whatever they do, have their cocktails, and they get together and they make a deal as to how they're going to pull the wool over the people of the Americans' eyes. And guess what? It's working. And Trina, you're right. I don't like that term, the left and the right. I have used it too many times, and I'm so sorry that I've done it. But that's the way people relate to it. But we're not going to get anywhere as long as this violence still continues in our country. Let me just. I'm going to point out something, and I would love for some of you to share this. If maybe you already have shared this video or this broadcast. But I'm going to say something, and I want you to tell me what you think. If Donald Trump is reelected, what do you think is going to happen after the election in November? What kind of violence is going to take place? And is there going to have to be some kind of, I hate to even think of martial law as a word, but that's what they're trying to blame Trump for in so many cities, when it's the mayors and the governors of each state that's at blame. It is not Donald Trump. It wouldn't be it, no matter who's president. The cities, the state, your local governments, they control it. The counties, it doesn't matter. They control what they do. But if a martial law for this country were to take place, I can tell you it would take place in a way that you and I will never believe would happen to America. America is not the America that we knew growing up. The violence that's going on right now, violence has always taken place. Wars have always taken place. Rumors of wars have always taken place. Everything like what's going on right now in so many of these cities are taking place, burning down buildings, killing people, whatever the case might be. This is what's happening. How do we stop it? This is the question I'm asking tonight. How do we stop it? How do we give up our rights to these crazed Black Lives Matters, Antifa, these paid protesters that hate America and want to tear it down? How do we fight back? How do we fight back without violence? How do we fight back without protecting ourselves? How do we fight back without, or stop it even? How do we? And when you start defunding the police, oh boy, now then you got an issue. When you start defunding the police, like what's happening in so many cities and wanting to happen, now we got an issue, because who's going to come to your rescue? Certainly isn't going to be a psychologist or psychiatrist that's going to come in and take somebody that's got a gun in your face and talk to them and really nice and settle them down. That isn't going to happen. It's not going to work. Get it through your heads, people. Come on, help me out here. And it's not a case. It's not a case of how do we stop? Because I don't know the answer to that. Nobody has the answer. Maybe the only way might be, and you could disagree with me, that's fine. That's your right. That's what this show's about. That's what anything's about. Freedom of speech is what we're about. Freedom, the protesting is a freedom of speech. Rioting is not. Rioting is not. So I'm going to tell you something. Until we get back to the point where we've got God in our country, we're in trouble. And maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, people. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But maybe God's sending us a message. I don't know, because I certainly do not know how we're going to stop all this violence that's going on in America. And this is what we see. This is what our children see. This is what, when you're watching, I don't call it news anymore, but will say the commentary or opinions. When you're watching it and your children are watching it and they see these people laying in the streets or getting beat up and bloodied, and police officers being attacked with bricks and stones and anything that they can throw at them. How do we stop this? Look, we have to support our police. They do need, and I will stand by this, they need to be better trained. They need to be better trained not to be so trigger happy and not to be so whatever happy. But that's because of the fact you've got what, 1%? maybe, of the police officers that are bad. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. The rest of the police officers in this country, I have to say, are probably the greatest. And yes, there are some, but what we see is minimal compared to what probably is really the truth. How many times do you see a video, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, or wherever it might be, Instagram, I don't care, or whether it's even Twitter. How many do you see where there's been a good act by a police officer? What we see mostly are the bad ones. And that's to fire up people. They're put there for a reason. That's to fire up people. And it's people like the Antifa or the Black Lives Matter. And speaking of Antifa that Francisca brought up, there's really no organization there. They don't really know who is ahead of Antifa. They don't even know. There is no, they have, I will say this, Stanford University, a professor, David Palumbo, and I'm spelling the last name Liu, is kind of like the head of Antifa, believe it or not. Our colleges have been overtaken by your far, far left professors, and the colleges continue to hire them. They won't even let a good professor come in because you might step on somebody's toes. You might step on somebody's toes. Doris Roberts says, put God back into our country. That's what I'm saying, Doris. I agree. This is why I said that. This has got to happen, or this country's in trouble. And for those of you that don't believe in God, that's up to you. But I happen to believe in God. And I happen to believe that that's one of the biggest problems we have got going today is the fact that we've kicked God out of the schools. Even today with the coronavirus, we can't even worship or sing our praises in singing because it might spread the virus. But you can go to a place to the grocery stores and so on and so forth, or you can go to certain gatherings as long as there's so many people, but you can't go to church in so many of these states. Lisa Anderson, thank you for coming and watching the show. I appreciate it. Americans shouldn't take either side. Trump likes the mob because it makes his people need him and his law and order solution. Excuse me for if I'm taking my time reading because it's like kind of hard on my eyes. It's like a mafia that attacks. Oops, let me get back up here because I lost you. There we go. It's like the mafia that attacks the store owner, and then its people come in and say, I will give you the protection if you pay me. You know something, you got a point there, Lisa, but that's where the Antifa and the Black Lives Matter come in. That's what's happening with them. When they get these little areas where they put their tents up and they take over the city like they did with Seattle, that's what happens. They have taken over the businesses, stopped people from making a living. They've gone in, they've taken their money. It's kind of like you mentioned the mob, the old mafia. The old mafia used to go around and they would, protect the businesses. They called it insurance money. And they did that, and they made their money by protecting. And if they didn't, they'd break your arm or your child's arm or your wife's arm, or they'd maybe kill you. Whatever the case was, that was what the mafia. I'm going back to the days of before I was even around, but I'm talking about the days of Dillinger and Al Capone and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But Lisa, you've hit a point. And I'm going to tell you, Americans shouldn't take the other side. You're saying the same thing that Trina said. It's like the right or the left. You can't have the right. You can't have both sides because either side is going to have a mob. I have to totally agree with that. I will not argue that point because I can't. I have no argument for it. But what's going to happen if Biden gets in? It's like I said. It's like I said. We're going to have an issue because it's not going to be. It's not going to be Joe Biden that's going to run this country. It's going to be. I've got it. I had the names, the total names, but we know the Cortez and a few of the others, the mob, the squad, whatever you want to call them. And if Nancy Pelosi's reelected, they will be the president, or the vice president he chooses would be the president. If Trump is defeated this fall. Now, Francisco, we pray and we vote out all Democrats for starters. We know they are treasonous nuts. Pray and vote for President Trump, for God to destroy all evil. Deep state wants to take over public school systems. Well, they're already doing that this year and indoctrinate the New World Order thinking. And then Lisa Anderson is wrong about Trump. We need God, and Trump is bringing him back. I believe that Trump is definitely bringing God back. What I was agreeing with Lisa on with this Francisca is the fact that going back to what Trina said, like she doesn't like the left or the right when we talk about left or right because we really don't have a party anymore of any kind. We have people that dictate to us. We have what, 535 people that are dictating to over 300 million people? Trina Maria, despicable, heart, broken heart. Facebook.com. Perma. Okay, I'll tell you what. I will go to that because if I go to it now, I'll be losing my camera. But I definitely want to go to that. By the way, and I am going to give you a map of where, as I said, I'm going to post later on after the show. I'm going to put on the map that shows where rioting and protesting is happening, and it's colored to where the highest amount is. Now, getting back to what I was asking you, how and Francisco and Trina and whoever else might agree, Doris, I'm going to tell you, I'm surprised that none of the men have commented. That it's been all the ladies have commented tonight. And I have to tell you, I'm impressed. You ladies are going to make the difference in the election this year. You know that, don't you? And I mean that sincerely with my heart. The ladies, the women of this country will decide the election this year. Doris Roberts, I live in Michigan, and Whitmer is a dictator. Well, I've seen that, and I believe you're right about that. The way she has handled the state of Michigan, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if she's not reelected when she comes up for her next term. Trina Maria, the link is that a meme of a kid in a mob throwing a firebomb into a horse trailer, burning the innocent horses. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. See, this is what I'm talking about. These kids are brainwashed. It's like being hypnotized. Look, they go to school. Well, now they're not even going to get to go to school. Most of the states are not even going to let kids go back to school because they're going to spread the virus. I'm not denying that the virus exists. And I just read an article now that from one of the I want to say scientists, but it was an organization that said that the numbers, the positive test and the negative tests are not right, period, on this. So what do we believe anymore? But the fact that the kids can't go back to school in so many states, they're going to be doing it virtually. Virtual education. they're not going to have the hands-on education, and it's not going to help because they've already taken history, they've already taken government, they've already taken uh, 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 civics, they've already taken everything out of school, including God. And I say that, what is wrong with letting people pray, even if it's silent? Who's that offending? You know, tell me something. Am I right or am I wrong? Who's it offending? If I can remember, we used to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Who is that offending? Who is it offending that it's taking that we take the national anthem away from us? Who is it offending? A few handful of people. That's who's running this country. Don't you understand? We've got 350 million people in this country, and we have a handful of gangsters and terrorists. Now, I'm talking about terrorists that are internal in this United States of America. This is who's destroying our country, along with your Antifa and your Black Lives Matter or any other group that does not like America. If you don't like America, I'm going to tell you, I wish one of them would be watching, or some of them would be watching, because I'll tell you right now, get the heck out of the country. We don't need you. This country was just fine until all these riots started. And yes, there's always been protests and there's been some rioting. Look at history. Civil War was a terrible thing. It was to free the slaves. And that's where I want my Black friends to understand Black Lives Matter is not about protecting you or sticking up for you. And if you don't believe me, please do some research. Please do some research. I'd love to hear from some men out there. I'm going to go ahead and go on to the top of the hour. And if you want me to continue this, because I've still got, and I'm going to show you, this is a bunch of information I still have that I haven't even talked about. And I apologize when I hold my head down to read, but it's like doing my radio show. I can't help it. I can't put these in front of me, because if I put them in front of me, it's rather rude, and I just don't think it's right. So I want to make sure I'm giving you the proper information. I've done a lot of research. I've done I've done this for years. I've done this for years. And I'm telling you right now, we have to figure out a way, whether it is electing a president that wants to bring God in, as I think it was Francisco said that President Trump wants to bring God in, and he does. I have, at least that I believe he does. I've even seen and heard ministers say that even if he is not religious, that God had put him in office for a reason. And I'm beginning to believe that, only because of the fact he does want people to go to church. He wants them to have the right to worship. He wants them to have the right to have a God, to have God in our schools, in our. He does not like the idea of the national anthem going away, or being replaced or resaid or not even used at all. Saying the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I've heard a lot of people that say that why should we pledge of allegiance to a flag? It's just a piece of paper, just a piece of cloth. It means nothing. It's a symbol of our country. The monuments that have been torn down was a symbol of what this country became. Whether they were slave owners or whether they were not slave owners, whether they fought to free the slaves or whether they fought against the slaves. I'm telling you right now, I am telling you right now who I'm going to blame for a lot of this, just as soon as I read what Lisa has to say. Lisa, thank you. I appreciate your comments. We preach nonviolence. Both the left and the right are promoting violence because they're controlled by the Zionists and the elitists who want war between sides. It's just like when they do it in Syria. It's called a color revolution. Trump is a violent man. He assassinated General Soleimani. Yes, and that is not a godly action. Well, I'm going to ask you about the general. How godly was he? I have to ask you that, Lisa, so you can explain it to me and maybe the others that are watching. And I'm not picking on you when I say that. I'm not contradicting you. I'm asking you. Uh, the reason I'm asking is because when Obama was in office, did he take out anybody that was evil? When Bush was in office, did he take out anybody that was evil? I'm asking this question because Lisa made a point here that Trump is a violent, evil man. And Lisa, the left used to follow nonviolence, but not no more. Why is that? You know, I wished I had the answer to that, but I can tell you what I believe it is. It's because they're being taken over by groups like the Antifa and groups like the Black Lives Matter and socialists, people that have been elected that want not only socialism, but they also want Marxism or communism. And they are sitting in office today in Washington, D.C., collecting money, and half of them only, what do they work, 180 days a year? That's what's happened to the left. The left has started, the left, look, the left is not my father's, the Democrats or left are not my father's Democrats or left. They're not the Democrats that John Kennedy was. The Republicans are not the Republicans that when John Kennedy was in office. I'm telling you, this is my opinion, but I'm going to tell you who I believe is to blame for this. Now, you can accept this or you don't have to accept this, people. I'm going back to our media, whether it's CNN, MSNBC, Fox, whatever, ABC, CBS, they are giving you, they're brainwashing people. They're inciting, when they continue to put on the TV what's happening around this country and all the violence and the hatred and the craziness that's going on, and they just continue, but they don't give you news of anything else. They get a group of people, and they have their commentaries, and everybody has an opinion. They use somebody from the right, and they use somebody from the left, and they use somebody from wherever else. That's who is to blame for so much of this violence in the country, as far as I'm concerned, Lisa. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can disagree with me. Evelyn, hi there. I'm glad you joined us. She has been one of my regulars, and I appreciate you being here. But look, listen to me. How many of you watch what we call the news? I call it commentary or opinion, but that's my opinion. That's just me. It's like me. I'm not telling you the news. I'm giving you my commentary and opinion. I'm trying to educate people into the fact that America's being taken over fast, and it's going to get worse if we're not careful. Number one, people do need to vote. Number two, I do not like the idea of the mail-in vote unless it's absolutely necessary, and that's just my opinion, because it can be too tampered with. In example, I wish I could remember the city where a postal worker lost his job, and he was throwing away somebody's political advertisements or something. And so what would happen if a postal worker didn't like the fact that somebody was mailing in a ballot, if they thought that person might be a Republican or a Democrat or vote for Trump or vote for Biden, and they didn't like it, and they just tossed them? That's the problem with mail-in vote. People who are not able to get out and vote, I can understand that. I can definitely understand that. Trina Maria says, never watch the mainstream news. You know, Trina, when you say mainstream, are you referring to like CBS, NBC, ABC, or your cable and dish news? But mainstream media to me is no longer it's not our news like we used to get. It really is not. Now I'm going to tell you, Doris just told me that it was in Ohio where that happened about the post office worker that was caught dumping whatever. I think it was probably a re-election type of campaign thing that I read. I could be wrong, Doris, and I apologize if I am wrong. Um, yes, all of those, CNN, Fox, etc. Trina, you're right. It is no longer. You know what? Correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. The media today, and even this is so slanted because we don't know what's true and what's not true. What's being posted on our social media has become our news. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever else people have out there. Has that not become the news today? And unless we do our research, we don't know if it's true or not. It's just like tonight. I saw on it was a flash of one of the articles or something that I saw online that there were 9 people shot in a Washington D.C. area, and 1 person was killed. I did post that, and I found a video on it online. Then apparently I didn't know that 1 person had been killed. I said that there was 3 that were seriously hurt, but 9 people were shot. I still don't know the whole story because I don't think the whole story's come out yet. But I think, social media is now becoming the news. Social media is now becoming what you and I know as the news, because we do spend a lot of time, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or whatever it might be. And Trina, I have to agree with you. I'm going to tell you something. I listened to one of I can't even tell you which one, broadcasts, and on TV, and I can tell you, the interviewer was trying. Oh, okay. I tell you who it was. It was Chris Wallace when he interviewed President Trump. He did everything he could to trip Trump up. And when President Trump mentioned something about Biden, and he wanted that Biden had said something about the defunding the police. Well, actually, he did not say it in those exact words, but there is a video out there, and I will find it, and I can get it. I'll find it, that where Biden implies defunding of police. Well, if he's elected, what's going to happen to our law and order? Are we going to have military? I'm telling you, Chris Wallace did everything he could to trip up Trump. He's a very good commentator or an interviewer, but he's also one-sided, whether you want to believe that or not, even though he's with Fox. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to tell you anyway, whether you want to believe this or not, you don't have to. Fox originally was started by Murdoch, and he was more of a conservative, but his 2 sons are not. His 2 sons are more of liberal. The only reason I think they try to lean more conservative is for viewership. It's all about the money. It's all about the money. But getting back to what I was talking about how do we stop the violence in this country, and I have gone over where I said I was going over, but I'm going to continue as long as you stay with me, if that's okay with you. But we'll close it out as soon as you tell me it's time to shut up. I haven't had one man mention anything. Not one man has commented. And so I'm asking you right now, the violence that's going on in America today, does anybody have any clue as to what they think would stop it? I know that I think Doris Roberts, and might have been Francisco mentioned putting God back in would help, would make the difference. Um, you know, it's a question I'm asking you. How do we stop the violence and protests that are going on? Protests I can deal with, but violence, the rioting, the destruction of people's property, the destruction of businesses that are taking people out of work. They complain that they lose their jobs because they can't go back to work because the businessman has been put out of business because the rioters who have been paid and they're bussed in, they're brought in, and they take over the community and they take over the area. They own and they blackmail. They do everything they can. They kill children, babies. They don't give a darn. So how do we stop it? Do we fight back? I've asked that question so much tonight. It's almost like, is there going to be another civil war in this country? But when I say civil, not necessarily black against white. I'm talking about people against people, period. Is that what's going to happen in this country? Is that what's coming up? Is that what's next? Somebody tell me what they think. I'm a believer. I am a believer that I'd never want to see this country under martial law. I don't want to see any state under martial law. I do not want to see any state. I don't want to see anybody fighting in each other because of the way they believe or way they don't believe. Come on, people, listen to what I'm trying to tell you. This country is in deep, dire trouble. We have to do something. I don't care what it is. If you have an answer, give me a solution. Do we let the people decide? Do you let people decide to in their communities how everything's going to run? That doesn't help the federal. That doesn't help the rest of the countries or the rest of the states. Violence has to stop. Protests, they've got to slow down. The biggest share of this started with the George Floyd murder. And I hope that police officer and the other ones involved spend the rest of their lives in prison. And that's my opinion. You're right. You have a right to yours. But this started this. But that's not what the reason is today for all the rioting and the protests. All this, what's going on now, that was an opportunity. That was an opportunity, and it has taken over this country. The opportunity to become able to go out and riot, tear, burn down places, shoot people, kill them, walk around and say, you can't tell me what to do. The law can't tell me what to do. Nobody can tell me what to do. You can't. Look, it's just like wearing a mask. It's just like wearing a mask. You don't have to. It's not a law. It's not a law. But it does help protect somebody if you have that illness not to get it, from the way I understand it. Do I think the numbers are fixed? Yes, I do. I don't think these are proper, right numbers. I really don't. I don't believe in these numbers. Francisco, left was always violent. They hit it. Thank God for President Trump. Soleimani should have been taken out long ago. Chris Wallace will love Trump. Everyone will when the truth comes out. Vote Trump and pray. Well, that's Francisco's. That has given her opinion. Anybody else have opinion on whether they want Biden and why? I'd love to hear it. But I believe that you're right about that. Soleimani was fighting ISIS. And Trump also helped get rid of ISIS, Lisa. And I'm not contradicting you. I'm going to be honest with you. I need to do more research on why Soleimani was actually taken out. Maybe somebody else knows more than I do about it. And if you do, please go ahead and comment on it. As far as I know, Trump did a good job of trying to get rid of ISIS along with it. I don't know the reason for Soleimani, unless there was an issue that we don't know about, a hidden issue that we really don't know about. But how would you handle Portland? when the ACLU is going to sue the Homeland Department of Homeland Security, how, because they're trying to protect federal property that belongs to people. How are we going to handle Chicago? That how many every weekend, and you don't hear as much about this as you do anything else. How many murders go on, and how many shootings go on in Chicago every weekend? Every weekend, there are killings and shootings that go on in Chicago, and the same thing is now happening in New York. Now, yes, a lot of it's gang related, but which gangs? I talked to a friend of mine that told me that years ago it used to be the Crips and somebody else. I can't remember. Lisa, Bruno, or excuse me, Francisco Salamani was killing our troops. Okay, there you go. Lisa Anderson, you can contradict that, or you can tell, you can say what you think. He staged attacks against our military. See, these are things that I have to be honest with you. I have paid more attention to what's been going on with other things in this country and around the world. And I was doing some concentrating a lot, and I'll be honest with you, on my website about China, about how much of China is controlling the United States. How much money are they? So I have to be honest. I appreciate the fact that Lisa and Francisco has brought that to my attention of what was going on. And this is kind of off our topic, but what happens now with these riots with these people putting these autonomous zones up where they just take over the area? What happens? What happens to stop it? How do we stop it? Do we have to have a federal? Do we have to have a federal or United Nations get involved? I'm going to tell you right now, I think the United States should get out of the United Nations, but that's my opinion. Nope, wait a minute. Hang on. Speaking of the United Nations, Lisa, the UN said it violated international law. Trump works for the apartheid state of Israel. I forget the exact reason why GS was killed, but you can be sure the Israelis were involved. Hang on here. Francisco, Trump gave detail in a speech about how and why he was killed. Trina, Indianapolis is getting bad too. Gunfire broke out at the Marion County Fairgrounds last night. I didn't even know that. I have to apologize. I didn't know that. I don't know the whole story. They closed the fair down early. Another young woman, age 23, with a 3-year-old child was shot and killed while leaving. Oh my gosh. While leaving a Black Lives Matter protest for saying all lives matter. Francisco, the UN is afraid and we should pull out. I've said that for years, that we should pull out of the UN. Just like I said, we should get out of the World Health Organization. And I think, as far as I'm concerned, the CDC is not a much better, but that's my opinion. Look, you ladies are very smart. I'm going to tell you right now, and I appreciate that. I really do. And I love the fact that you're making these comments, because you're actually, like I said before, it's going to be the women who elect the president this year. It will be you ladies. It will be you ladies. And I'm going to tell you, I've had many, 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 many people from all over the world that like you, many of you have friends from all over that are watching what's going on in America. They're seeing about the protests. They comment about the protests. They send me messages about the protests. What's going on in America. They even share my posts, or the fact that I'm doing a video, so that people in their country can find out what's going on if they're on Facebook or even when, because I do post on YouTube now, and it's under Neil Douglas, The New America. That's just all you put in to see any of my videos. I'm again, I'm at a point where I'm wondering why there have been no men comment. Because Bruno is actually Francisca, that's her husband's. I believe it's her husband's name. Francisca, correct me if I'm wrong. But getting back to what we were originally talking about, how, Trina, that's business about Indianapolis, for crying out loud, is just it's horrifying. A mother and a 3-year-old child shot and killed while leaving the Indianapolis Fairground at a Black Lives Matter protest. Because she said all lives matter. And guess what? All lives do matter. All lives do matter. Yes, Francisco says, all parts of governments were corrupt. SEC, CDC, FBI, CIA, etc., FDA, they conned us all. Yes, Bruno, it's your okay. Oh, I kind of thought I was right about that. Thank you. Trina says that she says, no, these were two separate incidents. Sorry. That's fine, Trina. You must have seen something that happened that involved a mother and a child or something to that effect. I don't know. But people, this is amazing. This is amazing because it has been the ladies tonight who have really, really come up with excellent information. Whether you agree with it or whether you don't, the people that are watching, these ladies are not, hey, they got it together. Regardless what side they believe in, when we talk about sides, and we discussed that that's not a good idea. But in a sense, it is. You're either on the more conservative or on the more liberal type of side. The fact of the matter is, we can agree to disagree and still be friends. At least I would hope that would be the same. But I don't have an answer as to how we stop the protest. I don't have an answer of how we get rid of the rioting and the killing and the pilfering of the people's homes and taking their homes away from them. I mean, where protesters were on a man's property and he had a gun out, he was arrested. Do any of you remember that? That's just been recently. Well, I just heard that I think he might not be charged, but he was charged because he had a gun against people who were protesting on his property. He couldn't even protect his own property. Guess what's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, if we're not careful? The day's going to come when they're going to come to your door and they're going to walk in your door, and there's not a darn thing you can do about it to protect yourself, because if you try to protect yourself, you're going to jail. And look, now you've got New York, you got a mayor in New York, this goofball that's in New York, not even having bail for people, criminals that have committed crimes. Just let them loose. They don't need a bail. And that's happening in other cities as well. This is why these people can protest and riot. This is why people can burn down people's homes or their businesses or their cars. I mean, even destroy police cars. The police, what good does it do for the police to pick them up when they can't even keep them in jail? You tell me. Somebody tell me something, please, for crying out loud. Tell me the reason. Lisa says one thing that organized crime and intelligence agencies do is they are people, they arm people to fight. I'm sorry. Someone is making weapons available to people. We know people can buy weapons, but are the weapons that these people using trafficked and in some criminal organization arming criminals? Okay, we know that they are letting criminals out of jail. You know something? You just said something. And I'm going to tell you something, Lisa. I have thought this for years. It's just like the drugs. I believe they're being brought in across the borders. They're being smuggled in somehow. So the criminals will always have guns. These people that are out right now rioting, and I'll bet you tonight if you turned on the TV someplace, somebody's rioting in one of the cities. And I don't know if it'll be Portland, because Portland is, like I said, either 52nd or 57th day of night of protesting and rioting. 56 or 53 or 57. I don't remember that, the exact answer number. Something's got to stop this before the whole country falls apart, before Portland, Oregon becomes nothing. But Lisa, to answer your point, my opinion is the criminals will always have the guns. And how many people have said that and believe it or whatever, but they're coming from someplace outside of this country. And they're being smuggled into somebody in this country that wants to bring down this country. Now, does anybody want to argue that point? And can you prove me wrong? Because inside our own country, there are organizations and people that want to bring it down. We have them in our government. They want to bring this country down. They want to destroy America. They want to get rid of America. Then what will we be? America with a K. We had traitors within, Francisca says. We still have them. We have traitors now. As far as I'm concerned, they are traitors. They're terrorists. We have terrorists in our own country right now that are grown within our country. They've been brainwashed. They've been told, they bought into things that, the internet is a good thing, but I'm going to tell you what, it's also a very dangerous thing. This is really a very, very highly technical era, and anybody can find anything. They can find anything. They can learn how to build bombs. They can learn how to build a gun or whatever. They can learn so much just because of the fact that we have got technology that has grown so fast that, and not just here, but all over the world. And it's really become serious. And America is coming down. America, I hate to tell you this, but America's coming down. And I want you, please, when I get done, I'm going to give you the map. I'm going to post the map that shows where all the protests are and what kind of protests they are. I'm going to do that. I did post it earlier, but I don't know if anybody really paid attention to the map. But I'm going to post it again because it's going to show you what's happening all over the country. Now, you and I, personally, I can't stop the protests. I can't stop the rioting. Peaceful protests are one thing. They've always been peaceful. That's fine. I say they've always been peaceful. For the most part, peaceful road protests do not have an issue. They get a permit and they protest. Okay? You don't get a permit, you go out and you protest, and you got these rioters, these infiltrators that come in that have taken over the organizations like Black Lives Matter or Antifa. And they are the ones that are causing problems along with any other groups that we don't even know about. When I told you earlier about who was part of the Antifa, or excuse me, the Black Lives Matter, I was very, you have to look it up yourself if you don't believe me, because I'm going to tell you something. This woman tried, that's part of the board of the Black Lives Matter. She hates America. She does not like America. She tried to destroy America. That's why she was sent to prison for 56 years, and she got out on good behavior after, I think, 16 or whatever it is. I think I told you that already. Didn't mean to repeat it. But this is not going to go away without some kind of intervention somehow. Do we want martial law? I don't. Do we want the government to come into each city and have tanks and have, like they do in countries that live in fear? North Korea, for crying out loud, there's a good example. China is another good example. Where the military and the tanks and the guns and what have you control their people. Is that what is going to happen with America if we don't stop this? Lisa says, many people believe the Zionists were behind 9/11. They are the enemy. Trump is a Zionist, and so is Biden and most of the rest of Congress. We should probably start protesting Israel and the IPAC and our political system. There are more videos. Oh, wait a minute. There are videos where I have to go on here. There we go. There are videos where Israel committees are talking about dictating and controlling Black Lives Matters. I haven't seen those, Lisa, so I can't argue that point. Maybe somebody else knows about it. I don't know, because when people talk about Zionists, unfortunately, they think of nothing but Jewish people. That's not true. That's not true. It's not just the Jews. You have leaders of countries that might be Zionists. You have leaders in our own country that might be Zionists. Leaders of any country can be evil, can be mean, can be ugly. 9/11 was an inside job that President Bush was behind, according to Francisco. Well, we got little differences going on there, but that's okay. That's what this is about. Because I can't prove whether Trump is a Zionist or not. I really can't. And I question it's when we talk about Israel. I want to make this very clear. This is my thinking. Okay, when we refer to Israel, it's not the people, the Jews, the Jewish people in Israel. It is like any other country when you have leaders that may be like dictators or telling the people how they're going to live or how they're going to, how their military is going to do or how they're going to act. That's where you come into people that do not understand Israel. They think that just because of Israel, they're thinking of all these people. Well, all these people in Israel are not thinking the same way. Trust me, they're not all Zionists. They really aren't. That's my opinion, Lisa, and you can disagree with me. Desha, hi, Neil. Oh, hi. I mean, hi, Desha. Thank you for joining us. This is now become. And I want to ask Lisa something because you brought up a point about the Zionists and Biden and so on and so forth, and people in Congress. I have this question for you. Do you think they might possibly also be behind the rioting and the protests as far as supporting it? I'm asking you, do you think that they might be supporting it? The Zionists believe in Jewish exceptionalism. Well, I don't know. I have to do some research on that. Bruno, right, Neil. God said, if you bless Israel, he will bless you. Do not go against his people or his land. I have read that, and that's why I say I personally cannot. As far as the leaders are concerned, I can't control that, Francisco. But I can tell you this. as far as Israel themselves concerned, the country that was meant to be, if you have any beliefs at all, Israel was, this goes back to the Old Testament even. And I'm not that religious. I don't have that much. I'm not a theologist. Yeah, I guess that's the right word. Anyway, Lisa says, I believe in a spiritual Israel, not an earthly one. That's a good point, and I like that way you said that, Lisa. I really do. I think that's very, what's the word I want to use? That's very open-minded and well put. But going back to what I was asking, Lisa, when you were talking about the Zionists, and even in our country as well as other countries, I can't believe that the president wants to see these riots and these where people are getting killed. I don't think Biden does. I can't see any decent human being wanting to see this. That's why we're being infiltrated by outsiders. That's why we're being infiltrated by people that want to bring this country down. If I'm making any sense, please just say yes or no. I don't care. But we have people on the inside that want to bring our country down, and we have people from the outside that want to bring our country down. I can't prove that 9/11 was an inside job by Bush. I can't prove that it was done by the Israelis. I honestly can't. I mean, that's what people are trying to find out about 9/11, what really happened. And there have been so many videos out there that can prove that some of it was demolition. So, how could two planes bring downtown two great big buildings like the Trade Center buildings? Well, I don't know the answer to that because I'm just like the rest of you. We want to get to the bottom of it. But when we do, let me ask you this question. What are we going to prove? What's it going to prove? What's going to happen? What are we going to do? Who are we going to punish? Do we separate ourselves from the rest of the world? Is that what's going to happen? I think we better be careful of, I've gotten away from the rioting that's going on in our country today. I've gotten away from that for a minute. But let me ask you this question. What happens to the fact that what if we should be looking out for Russia coming from the north and destroying our country, taking over our country as they said they would? Trina Maria, 3 buildings on 9/11. Yes, was that building number 7? Was the third building? Am I right about that? Was it building number 7? Correct me if I'm wrong. And look at the people that were killed on that day. People of all walks of life, all ethnic type of people. That, when you think about it, Trina says, yep, 7. Okay, that's what I was wondering, because that's the one that looks like it was, to me, that just imploded. It was like a demolition. I don't have the answers to who did it. All I know is I remember the day that it happened. I do remember that, and I'm sure that every one of you that were around then remember it as well, that day. But what are we going to do about it when we do find out the answer? That becomes a part of history? Do we, who do we punish? Who do we punish? And I'm going to tell you that it's just like right now what's going on. We've got a war within our own country. We've got a war within our own country. Francisca says the outsider uses the insider to get in. People are going down as we speak. Neil, last I checked, over 150,000 incidents. 150. Am I reading that right? 150,000? Oh, or is that indictments? I'm sorry. I need new glasses. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm thinking that's indictment. Say yes or no. I said, yeah, I think it is. 150,000. But you're right. The outsider uses the insider to get to the people, and that's what the same way with when Lisa, Lisa said that people, the guns are coming in from someplace, and they are. Okay, I was right on that. Thanks, Francisco. I did read it right. I got to tell you something, folks. I've been on much longer than I thought I would be. You don't know how I appreciate it. We never did get somebody to give us an answer about how they thought we should solve the problem of stopping the rioting, and the protests and the destruction of people's lives and the destruction of people's homes and the destruction of people's businesses, their jobs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We never got to an answer with that because none of us really, I think, have an answer. We don't know the answer, other than should we let God take over? Should I mean, really, is that the answer? Just hey, pray each night or whatever you do, and ask God to get this thing under control, just like the virus. Get everything under control. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't know how I am concerned. Francisco says, yes, pray. I'm going to stretch this out for about 3 more minutes. So if you can hang with me. And I do apologize that I spent so much time on this, but you ladies, I'm going to tell you, you've really kept this an interesting show. If we can get to the bottom of how to stop this infiltration that wants to bring down America because they hate America. As I said before, if you don't like America, get out. That goes for anybody. And for those people, my friends that are Black Lives Matter, they're not protecting Black lives. That's not what it's about. It really isn't. You're being brainwashed if you think it is. You're being told something that isn't true. Black Lives Matter. All lives matter. But it's not the Black Lives Matter movement that's protecting you. They don't really care. Neil said you need to find out if Trump is a Zionist. I appreciate you doing this. Well, Lisa, you know something? I appreciate you doing what you're doing by speaking out and watching this and staying here with us. And I will do what you said. And and you make a good point. It's called research. It really is. It's called research. There's Jason. Jason, hey, you should have got here sooner. We're just about to wrap it up, but you can watch it, Jason. I appreciate you getting on. You're the first guy. You're the only guy that's even said hello. I appreciate that. But we're going to wrap it up because I've been on for almost an hour and 40 minutes, which is much longer. And I'm telling you right now, I do appreciate all of your comments. The ladies, I'm going to tell you something, Jason, you missed this one because the ladies really kept this show going. We may continue this topic of protests and rioting at another show. I don't know yet. We'll see what happens. But Depends unless there's something serious that goes on. In the meantime, I do appreciate everybody's watching and tuning in, and please share this video to your friends. I want to say good night. I want to say God bless you. I want to say to everybody, thank you for watching American Truth Finders. I'm Neil Douglas. Good night.